Hi, so in this video, we are going to discuss on the topic safe working environment. So it is a part of the general workplace issues and the elements of the new Nebosh International Diploma ID3 and the old syllabus IC1. So now first we are going to see what are the ILO convention requirements for a safe place of work. So the ILO C155 requires a safe workplace and safe equipments and devices. So in the later part of this video, we are going to see how to achieve the safe workplace and the safe equipment and devices. So a safe equipment, equipment and devices need a system of maintenance to operate safely. So what are the parts of the system of maintenance? So the first part is the periodic maintenance. Then once the defects are identified, the defects should be remedied. Then the access to the defective equipment should be prevented and a proper record should be kept. So what includes in the periodic maintenance? So the first is the inspection of the equipment or devices, then testing of the equipment. It may include some adjustments to be made, then cleaning, lubrication. So now what are the benefits of record keeping? So first, it helps to implement the system of maintenance, and also it helps to validate the record. So now what are the examples of equipment requiring the system of maintenance? So the first example is like emergency lighting, then fencing, then fixed equipment for window cleaning, anchorage point for safety harnesses, then escalators and moving walkways, and the power doors. So these are the few general examples of the equipments and devices which may require the system of maintenance. So now the first part, or we can say the first requirement of the ILO C155 convention is the safe place of work. So what are the general requirements for the safe place of work? So the first is the cleanliness of the workplace, then the workstation and its seatings, then the safety of windows and transparent doors, then the safe means of access and egress. So these are the broad classification which needs to be achieved to make the workplace safer. So the first uh, requirement is the cleanliness. So what to achieve in the cleanliness? So the workplace cleanliness, then the furnitures and furnishings and fittings, then floor walls and ceilings, then proper receptacles for waste. So these are the general requirement for the cleanliness of the workplace. So now what are the safety at the workstation? So the arrangement of the workstation to carry the task safely. Example, work sequence. Then specific to the needs of the individual, like considering the person with disability. Then free movement and ability to stand upright. Then clear and unobstructed safe space to carry out work safely. So these are the general requirements of the workstation to make it a safer place. So now what are the requirements for the seating at the workstation? So the adequate support for the lower back. So basically, it is a part of the ergonomics. Then the footrest, where the worker cannot place his foot on the floor. So these are the general ergonomical requirement of the workstation sittings. So now next topic is windows and transparent doors. So it should be made of safety materials like polycarbonate or protected against the breakage of transparent or translucent material. Then appropriately it should be marked to make them apparent. So now the next um, requirement for the safe place of work is the safe means of access and egress. So the sufficient traffic routes with sufficient width and headroom to allow people on foot or vehicle to move freely. Then floors should be of sound construction and not to be overloaded. Then the floors should not have holes, slopes, and uneven slippery surfaces. Floors and traffic routes should be kept free from obstruction. And open side of the staircases should be securely fenced and provided with the handrail. So these are the general requirements for the safe mean of access and egress to make the workplace safe. So now how to design surface to reduce slipping. The access may be slippery and it poses a slip hazard. So how to design the surface that will reduce the chances of slipping. So the hole, bumps, uneven surfaces from damaged wear and tear should be made good to prevent slip, trip, or fall. Then the slopes should not be steeper than necessary. Moderate and steep slope should be provided with handrails to enable to be used by the people with disabilities. Then slip resistance coating to the floor and traffic routes where chance of spillage of slippery substances or spillage are likely. Floors near the machinery where person may fall and get injured should be made slip resistant and kept free from obstructions. Then effective drainage should be provided where floor is likely to get wet. So we can reduce the chances of slipping by employing these methods. So now we will see what is the slip resistance testing. So first, to understand this, we should cover some concepts of the friction. So what is friction? So it is a resistance of an object that encounters while moving on other. So it is easier to drag object over ice than in gravel because gravel exerts more frictional resistance. So over the ice, if we move some object, then the ice offers less friction compared to the gravel. So it will be easier to drag the object over ice than in the gravel because it has lesser friction. So the friction is the force that acts opposite to the direction of the push, or we can say the pushing force. So now we should understand the next topic, coefficient of friction. So the coefficient of friction is the number which represents friction between the two surfaces. So the smooth surface have a lower coefficient of friction than the rough surfaces. So now, what do we mean by the frictional force? So it is the force which needs to be overcome to enable an object to be pushed over surface. So the smooth surface have lower frictional force than rough surface. So we will now see how through a diagram we will try to understand all these topics. So, here in the uh, picture we see a surface, and there are two positions, position A and position B. And suppose a mass M is at position A, then we apply a push force and the mass changes its position from A to B. So during this change of the position, the mass also have a force, or we can say the surface exerts a normal force upward to the mass, and the mass also has a uh, mass also has a force, or we can say it has a weight mg. So it acts downward because of the gravitational force. So once the push force F is applied on the mass m, the surface also exerts a frictional force opposite to the direction of the push force. So the weight of the object, we can say N is equal to mg minus normal, because the mass is at the rest on the surface. So the push force needed to change the position from A to B is F. So the coefficient of friction can be calculated as M equal to F by N, or we can say F equal to the push force is equal to coefficient of friction into weight of object. So F is the force to push the object, M is the coefficient of friction, and N is the weight of object. So in this way, we can calculate the coefficient of friction. So the UK Health and Safety Executive's pendulum coefficient of friction test. So what is it? So the pendulum coefficient of friction test is based on the swinging imitation heel using a standardized rubber soling sample, which sweeps over a set area of floor in a controlled manner. The slipperiness of the floor has a direct and measurable effect on the pendulum test value. So a rubber sole heel is made to swing like a pendulum over a set area of the floor, and uh, based on the measurement of the slipperiness of the floor, the coefficient of friction is interpreted. So the interpretations of the pendulum result. So the coefficient of friction result can be used to provide information on different coefficient of values between one surface and another surface, and the effect of contamination on the surface in terms of coefficient of friction. So this pendulum test actually helps to find out the different values of the coefficient of friction between the surfaces, and also the if the surface is contaminated by some, we can say, by some lubricating agents or by some spillages. So this surface may not have the same coefficient of friction as it was dry. So by this pendulum result, we can uh, calculate the effect of the contamination on the surface in the terms of coefficient of friction. So the pendulum test value has a certain scale. So if the coefficient of friction comes out between 0 to 24, it means high slip potential. And if it is between 25 to 35, it means moderate slip potential. And if it is over 36, then it has low slip potential. So this topic is self-explanatory. So we will now move to our next topic. So what are the methods for cleaning the floor and the appropriate footwear to wear while cleaning? So the first is using the right amount of detergents. Then to give time for the detergent to work on greasy floor. Then cleaning the equipment should be well maintained. So the cleaning equipment should be maintained uh, in a good condition. So a dry mop to reduce the floor drying time. So the dry mop will reduce the time for the floor, for the wet floor to dry up. So this will automatically reduce the chances of the slippage, and the spot cleaning wherever it is possible, and the signages wherever there is a work going on of the cleaning. So there the signages should be placed as a warning, and using an appropriate cleaning techniques. The sequence of the cleaning should be followed, using the right footwear and avoiding high heels. So now another uh, way to keep the access and egress safe is by the good housekeeping. So the first, the rubbish should be discarded. Rubbish like discarded boxes, bin bags should be removed and disposed. Then the uneven floor caused by curling mats, missing tiles should be reported by the system of reporting, and there should be a and it should also be attended to get it rectified. Then the poor lighting should be reported by the cleaning staff, and the occupier should rectify. The housekeeping issues like leftover work material, improper storage of cleaning equipment should be reported and rectified. So these are the good housekeeping measures by which a safe mean of access and egress can be attained. So now we will see in detail about the safety signages. So the first is the prohibition signs. So as in the picture, we can see a red border, white background, and a black symbol or a picture in between with a crossbar. So the prohibition signs are the round. They are round in shape with a white background and a red border and a crossbar. It has a symbol in the black placed centrally on the background without obliterating the crossbar. It means that something must not be done. So like no smoking and no naked flame. Another type of safety signage is the mandatory signs. These are the round with the blue background and white symbol. It state what must be done or what protective equipment must be worn. For example, like in the first picture, we see the eye protection. Then in the second picture, we see the head protection. We see the helmet. So the mandatory sign must be compulsory. It is a compulsory to follow the mandatory sign. So the next safety sign are the warning signs. So these are the triangular with a black border and black pictogram on a yellow background. It warns of the presence of a particular hazard, like flammable and explosive. So if the condition uh, is if the condition is not good, then there may be a chances that the flame may occur or the explosion may occur depending upon the type of hazard. So the next safety signage is the safe condition signs. Formerly, they were known as the emergency signs. So these are the square or rectangular with white symbol on a green background. It indicates the safe condition as a first aid post or emergency evacuation route. So the first sign we are seeing is the exit sign. Then the second is the eye wash. So the next safety sign is the fire safety signs. This falls in two categories. Those providing information on the means of escape and which take the form of a safe condition sign, like the fire exit in the first picture. Then the next type of fire safety signs are for the identifying the location of fire equipments. Example, alarm point, fire extinguisher, fire hose reel, like in the second picture we can see. So now, what are the use and location? What should be the use and location of the signboard? So the signboard should be installed in a position appropriate to the line of sight, either at the access point to the area of the general hazard or in the immediate vicinity of the specific hazard. So it can be placed, the signboards could be placed at the entrance or at the immediate vicinity where the hazard is present. So the next is to avoid placing too many signs close together and remove the signs if the situation to which they refer no longer exists. So too many signages at the nearby can create a confusion, and also the obsolete signages should be removed, or the signages which are no longer required should be removed. Next is the illuminated signs should be provided with emergency lighting power if the power must be if the power might be lost in an emergency, like the uh, exit signages of the building. So it must be illuminated. So they must be provided with the emergency lighting, so that in the case of power failure, the people can see the direction of the exit. Then the pipeworks containing dangerous substances should be marked as those commonly seen on containers of dangerous substance. Then the stores and the areas containing significant quantities of dangerous substance should be identified by an appropriate warning signs. So the storage locations. Then the signs marking obstacle, dangerous locations, and traffic routes can be used where the risk is low, but it is impractical to safeguard by other where it is impractical to safeguard by other means. So where the traffic routes, where the hazard is low, the signages can be placed, but the signages are not the first line of defense. Then the obstacle of dangerous location. Obstacles or the dangerous location such as the edge of the loading platform or the danger zone adjustment to the process can be marked by the use of yellow and black or red and white angled strip. Where there clearly defined traffic routes are necessary, they should be marked using continuous yellow and white lines.